I couldn't breathe. My fingers went cold as I watched the screen, frozen mid-scroll. The video was grainy, handheld, but the voice was unmistakable. My mother, sitting at our old oak dining table, sipping wine I'd paid for, laughing as if the words leaving her mouth weren't sharp enough to cut bone. "Oh, please," she sneered, waving a hand. "Rachel thinks selling houses makes her some kind of success. She flunked out of nursing school, and now she's just drifting. A lost cause in high heels." My cousin Emma, who fancied herself a lifestyle vlogger, had sent me the Livestream link with a short text. I didn't know she'd say this. "I'm so sorry." I was 600 miles away at a real estate convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. The hotel room I'd just checked into suddenly felt like a cage. I turned up the volume. "She acts like she's some kind of martyr," Mom said, "but really, she just couldn't cut it in the real world. All that talk about nursing? That was just a phase." Laughter echoed from the room, my uncle, my aunt, maybe even Emma behind the camera, too stunned to shut it off. My face burned with disbelief. I'd left nursing school not because I failed, but because she got sick. Rheumatoid arthritis hit her like a wrecking ball, and someone had to drive her to doctors, fight with her insurance, pay for the injections they said weren't medically necessary. That someone was me. No one at that table knew I had cashed out my savings to cover her treatments, or that I worked 70-hour weeks, skipped holidays, birthdays, and relationships just to keep her afloat. And here she was, mocking me, erasing the life I'd sacrificed on her behalf, rewriting the story with a wine glass in her hand. I stood in that hotel room, staring at a truth that had always lurked beneath the surface. Maybe my mother never saw the value in what I did. Maybe she never would. What do we owe to the people who raised us, when the debt becomes a chain, and the love feels more like leverage than connection? At what point does loyalty stop being noble and start becoming self-betrayal? The drive home from Charlotte felt like miles of silence, broken only by my own heartbeat. I barely remembered checking out of the hotel or passing through the Georgia state line. My body was on autopilot, but my mind was locked on replay. My mother's voice, her laugh, the way she casually dismissed the years I'd given up for her. 5 years ago, I was 26 and halfway through my second year of nursing school. I had always loved science and people, and I believed nursing was my calling. But everything changed the day my phone rang. It was her supervisor. Mom had collapsed at work. By the time I reached the hospital, she was already diagnosed. Aggressive rheumatoid arthritis, the specialist said. Debilitating, expensive, chronic. "I don't know how I'm going to survive this," she cried from her hospital bed. "I can't afford this kind of care, Rachel." And I, still in my scrubs from clinical rounds, held her hand and said what any good daughter would. "Don't worry, I'll help you." That moment rewrote my entire life. I put nursing school on hold temporarily, thinking I'd go back once she stabilized. I took the real estate license course on a whim, figuring flexible hours would let me drive her to appointments, handle the paperwork, and still earn enough to cover her copays and meds. One open house turned into two, and 2 years turned into 5. By then, I'd built a decent name for myself in the Atlanta housing market, but every commission check had a destination: injections, specialists, physical therapy, insurance premiums. I wasn't living, I was managing her illness, managing her moods, managing a story she told the world that painted me as the flaky daughter who dropped out and gave up. Occasionally, she'd toss me a compliment, almost as if testing how much I'd tolerate for a crumb of affection. "You've become so responsible," she once told me, after I'd spent 4 hours sorting out her denied insurance appeal. I held on to that single sentence like it was a medal. I thought if I worked hard enough, gave enough, she would finally see me. But the live stream had proven otherwise. She didn't see me. She saw a failure dressed in professionalism, a backup plan that never reached the podium. Back home, I sat alone in the kitchen where we used to eat together. The walls held memories I couldn't unsee. I reached for the thick folder labeled medical, 5 years of itemized payments, pharmacy receipts, appointment printouts, and premium increases. I hadn't kept them out of bitterness, only for tax season and just in case. But now they felt like evidence, a record of a life paused. My phone buzzed. Emma again. "I'm at the cafe on Park, if you're up for it." I grabbed the folder and left without a second thought. When I slid into the booth across from her, she looked up, eyes red-rimmed, guilt plain as day. "I didn't know she'd say that. I swear." I'm not angry at you," I said calmly. "Actually, I think you did me a favor." I placed the folder between us and opened it. Her expression shifted as she scanned the pages. Figures, dates, prescription names. "This is all of it?" she whispered. "Over $110,000, I said. "Every penny I had." Emma stared at me, stunned. "And she said you were the failure?" I nodded, and for the first time in a long time, my voice didn't shake. "That ends today." I didn't cry that night. I thought I might. I expected to, honestly. But instead, something inside me had gone quiet, like a storm had finally passed, leaving a kind of eerie, unshakable stillness in its wake. For years, I'd clung to the idea that what I did mattered, even if it was invisible, that the sacrifices I made were somehow building something stronger between my mother and me. That one day, she'd look at me and say, "I see you." But that video had been a harsh mirror, a reminder that no amount of self-erasure could make someone love you the way you deserve. The next morning, I woke up early and brewed coffee like usual, only this time I drank it alone, without checking my mother's calendar for appointments or medication refills. I didn't start the day in service to her needs. I started it in service to mine. I opened my laptop and pulled out two things: the nursing school acceptance letter I had received nearly 9 months earlier, and the withdrawal form I'd filled out but never submitted. I reread the welcome message from the admissions office. "We're excited to offer you a place in the Fall Accelerated Program for returning students. Your previous coursework and strong academic standing make you a perfect candidate for re-entry." I had told myself I'd wait just one more year, save a little more money, make sure mom was stable. But stability never came. Only new crises, new expenses, and the ever-widening silence of my own life slipping away. This time, I didn't hesitate. I clicked Accept Enrollment and scheduled a call with the academic advisor. I had a few months before classes started, just enough time to restructure my real estate business to fit my new path. I wasn't going to walk away from everything I'd built. Real estate had kept me afloat, had taught me how to negotiate, how to advocate, how to listen between the lines. I would still work, just not 24/7. I didn't need to be the hero anymore. That afternoon, I went to the bank and opened a new savings account in my name only. I transferred the small reserve I'd been secretly putting aside, money that had been meant for another one of Mom's treatments, into the account. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The folder marked medical came with me to the coffee shop later that day. I sat down again with Emma, this time with less tension between us. "I need your help," I told her. "I'm going to untangle myself from all of it. The billing accounts, the insurance forms, everything." She blinked. "You're cutting her off?" "I'm not abandoning her," I said, steady. "I'm just stepping out of the role I never consented to in the first place." Emma nodded slowly, and together we made a checklist. The insurance company would need a change of guarantor form. The pharmacy account had my card on file. The billing systems for 2 different hospitals and 3 specialist clinics would all need to be updated. By the weekend, I had spent nearly 16 hours on the phone, emailing, faxing, and mailing certified letters. My dining table looked like a home office for a law firm. I canceled my auto payments, closed out old accounts, and requested paper statements be sent directly to my mother's address from now on. I knew what would happen next. She'd find out when a payment declined, when a pharmacy said the card didn't go through, when her specialist office called to say her insurance was no longer active. And just like clockwork, the angry texts started rolling in that Monday. "Where are you? The pharmacy says the refill isn't covered anymore. Call me now. Why would you cancel the insurance? Are you trying to kill me? Don't ignore me, Rachel. I raised you. I won't be treated this way. Each ping only confirmed I was doing the right thing. There was no curiosity in her words. No, are you okay? No, what's going on? Just rage. Just entitlement. As if I were an employee who'd quit without giving 2 weeks' notice. I put my phone on silent. By Wednesday, I'd drafted a carefully written email to every member of our extended family, my aunts, uncles, cousins, even 2 second cousins I barely knew. I explained briefly and factually that I had been covering all of my mother's medical expenses for the last 5 years. I included a spreadsheet showing over $110,000 paid out of pocket, as well as insurance records and receipts. I'm stepping down from this responsibility, I wrote. This is a personal decision, and I ask that it be respected. I'm sharing this information only so that you understand the context should my mother need additional help moving forward. I expected backlash. I expected guilt-tripping phone calls or passive-aggressive Facebook posts. But what I didn't expect was the silence, and how peaceful it would feel. For the first time in years, I had space to breathe. And in that breath, I felt something I hadn't in a very long time. Relief. The letter from the insurance company arrived 4 days later, mistakenly sent to my address instead of hers. I held it in my hands for a long time before opening it. A brief summary of coverage changes, highlighted in sterile corporate language, and a firm notice. Policyholder must update billing guarantor information to avoid interruption in care. I sealed it back in a new envelope addressed to her house and slipped in a small note. This was sent to me by mistake. You should read it carefully. No signature, no emotion, just facts. I knew what it meant. I had finally stepped out of the shadows, and the spotlight was going to burn. The next morning, I didn't show up for her physical therapy appointment. I didn't respond to her 6th text that week. I didn't answer when she called me for the 4th time in a single hour, her name flashing across my screen like a fire alarm I refused to run toward. Then came the knock at the door. It was early evening, just after sunset. I had been organizing textbooks for my nursing program, reviewing pharmacology flashcards while sipping lukewarm tea, when I heard the doorbell. I froze. Peering through the peephole, I saw her. My mother, dressed in a fleece robe, leaning heavily on a cane she rarely used unless she was performing for pity. Her face twisted into a scowl the moment she saw movement behind the glass. Rachel, I know you're in there. Open this door right now. My heartbeat kicked up like a drumline, but I stayed silent. You've missed my last 3 calls, she barked. The pharmacy says the insurance card is invalid. Fix it now. I took a deep breath and spoke through the door, my voice quiet but firm. I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. A pause. Then venom. Excuse me? You'll be getting a letter from the insurance company soon, I continued. I suggest you read it. I've removed myself as your guarantor. Her tone snapped into rage. This is about money, isn't it? After everything I've done for you? That sentence made me laugh, bitter and low. Goodbye, Mom. Please don't come back. She pounded on the door once more, but I turned and walked away. Each step felt lighter. I wasn't fleeing. I wasn't angry. I was simply done. That night, I blocked her number. And one by one, I muted the relatives who had replied to my email with some version of, "You're being dramatic." Only Emma, and surprisingly, my great-aunt Clara, responded with kindness. Clara's email was simple. Sometimes the hardest thing is standing up for yourself. Call me if you need anything, sweetheart. That small note of grace kept me grounded. 3 days later, I was standing in the admissions office at Emory Nursing School, finalizing my re-enrollment. The advisor, a woman in her 50s with gentle eyes and a sharp mind, glanced over my file. You've been away from the program for quite a while, she said, tapping a pen against my transcript. But your previous grades were excellent. You'll need to take a placement test, but I think you'll do just fine. I've already started reviewing, I said with a smile. As I walked through campus, I felt a strange and beautiful ache settle in my chest. This place had once represented the life I had to walk away from. Now, it was waiting for me to walk back in on my own terms. That night, I cleaned out my home office. The whiteboard full of client leads, the files marked urgent with closing deadlines, the stack of brochures for showings I no longer wanted to chase. I wasn't quitting real estate, not entirely, but I was changing how I worked, fewer clients, higher value listings, and I'd already put out a job posting for a part-time assistant. I could still earn a living, but I wouldn't lose myself doing it. Just when things felt settled, the ambush came. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I just wrapped up a showing for a young couple in Decatur. As I walked toward my car, I saw her, my mother, and standing beside her, arms crossed and looking uncomfortable, was Aunt Lisa. They had parked behind my car, blocking it in. My first instinct was to turn and leave, but I had nowhere to go, and I was tired of running. "Rachel," my mother called, putting on her best wounded voice. "We need to talk." I stopped several feet away, keys clutched tightly in my hand. "I don't have anything else to say." Her eyes narrowed. "You're abandoning me. After everything I've been through, do you want me to die?" I didn't flinch. Aunt Lisa stepped forward. "Your mother is in trouble. Her medication costs tripled. She can't afford her new plan. Is that what you wanted?" I swallowed, keeping my voice steady. What I wanted was to be treated with basic respect. What I wanted was a mother who didn't call me a pathetic failure behind my back. My mother blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" I met her gaze directly. "I saw the live stream, Mom. The one Emma recorded during family dinner." The color drained from her face. She turned to Aunt Lisa in a panic. "She's twisting things." I didn't let her finish. "I've sacrificed more than you'll ever admit. I'm not your villain. I'm just someone who finally said enough." And for once, she had no comeback. I drove away from the parking lot without looking back. But in my rearview mirror, I caught one last glimpse. My mother gesturing wildly at Aunt Lisa, her face red with frustration. Her words unreadable but familiar. That frantic desperation she'd used to pull people in, to guilt them into action. It didn't work on me anymore. For the first time in my adult life, I felt a strange but powerful sensation in my chest. Peace. Not the fleeting kind you get from a weekend off or a quiet morning, but something deeper. A peace born from finally choosing yourself after years of being someone else's safety net. 3 months flew by in a blur. I passed my nursing placement exam with flying colors and officially enrolled in the accelerated program. It felt surreal walking into orientation with my crisp ID badge and stack of new textbooks. I was 10 years older than most of my classmates, but I didn't care. If anything, I carried a kind of wisdom they hadn't yet earned. My path had been long, painful, but entirely mine. To make it all work, I restructured my real estate business. I stopped chasing volume and focused on quality. I worked with only a handful of clients at a time, ones who respected boundaries. I hired Megan, a sharp college senior with a knack for organization, to assist with scheduling and paperwork. Between showings and lectures, I studied pharmacology flashcards in parking lots and anatomy modules in waiting rooms. It was chaos, but it was purposeful chaos. For once, I was building something for me. The house felt different, too. The air was lighter without the weight of constant expectation. My dining room table was no longer stacked with insurance letters and pharmacy printouts. It now held nursing binders and meal-prepped salads. The couch wasn't a place to crash from burnout, but where I curled up and read case studies with a cup of tea. My mother hadn't reached out since the confrontation. I thought I might hear from her again, through guilt, manipulation, or perhaps a carefully crafted message. But nothing came, and I didn't chase it. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was simply done waiting for recognition from someone incapable of giving it. The silence from certain family members persisted too. Some had taken her side outright. Others stayed quiet, unsure what to believe. But the ones who mattered, the ones who had asked for my story, who had listened, were still there. Emma came by often, sometimes with coffee, sometimes with a hug, always with support. One Thursday night, after a particularly long hospital rotation shadowing a surgical nurse, I returned home to find an envelope on my front porch. Thick, expensive paper. No return address. Inside was a formal letter from the Boston Real Estate Alliance. My hands trembled slightly as I read the words aloud. Congratulations, Rachel Pierce. You've been nominated for the Resilience in Real Estate Award, given annually to one agent who has overcome significant personal adversity while maintaining professional excellence. I blinked, then blinked again. The nomination had come from my broker, who had seen the spreadsheet I'd created to document 5 years of financial care for my mother. I never imagined it would be seen as anything more than a practical tool. But somehow, it had told a story, and someone had listened. The ceremony was scheduled for early May. I bought a dress that wasn't on sale and shoes that didn't pinch. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to indulge. Not because I needed to prove anything, but because I finally believed I was worth celebrating. The night of the event, I stood in a ballroom full of sharp suits and glassware clinking with laughter. When they called my name as the winner, I froze. For a moment, it felt like a mistake. But then I remembered everything, every sleepless night, every bitter phone call, every appointment I sat through while feeling invisible. And I walked to that stage with my head high. When I accepted the award, I spoke simply. I thought success meant never falling behind, but I've learned that real resilience is choosing to rise again, on your own terms. This award isn't just for my work in real estate, it's for the version of me that refused to disappear. The applause that followed wasn't the loudest I'd ever heard, but it was the one I believed in most. Later that evening, I stepped outside for air. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. She's in the hospital. Uncle John called. Medication reaction. She's asking for you. For a second, my chest tightened. Not with fear, but with choice. I texted back. I'll stop by after this, but I'm not rushing. I'm not dropping everything. I'll come as myself, not her savior. And I meant it. The hospital lights buzzed softly as I walked down the corridor, clutching my bag with the Resilience in Real Estate Award still tucked inside. Visiting hours were nearly over, and the halls were mostly empty except for a few nurses finishing their rounds. I followed the room number Emma had texted me, each step deliberate, steady, not out of obligation, but choice. When I pushed open the door, I found her sitting up in bed, fully alert, her expression somewhere between surprise and disdain. Well, she said sharply, nice of you to show up. Uncle John sat in the corner chair, fidgeting with his phone. Emma stood near the window, her face unreadable, arms crossed. Hello, Mom, I said calmly. How are you feeling? How do you think? She snapped. They gave me the wrong dosage, and now I'm stuck in here. This never would have happened if you hadn't changed the insurance. I kept my voice measured. You were informed. I sent everything in writing. You sent a note, she sneered, as if I'm some stranger. I reached into my bag and set the award gently on the bedside table. The light caught the engraved words, Resilience in Real Estate, Rachel Pierce. Her eyes flicked to it, her mouth twitching. What is that supposed to mean? It means I survived, I said. Not just professionally, but emotionally. It means I found a way forward. She scoffed. You think a glass trophy makes you better than me? No, I replied softly. It just means I stopped trying to prove myself to someone who never really saw me. Uncle John looked between us, his brow furrowed. Rachel, what's going on? Emma stepped forward before I could answer. The video, Uncle John. The one I accidentally live-streamed from dinner. Rachel heard everything. How Mom mocked her, laughed about her dropping out of nursing, called her a failure. My mother's face paled. That's not fair. I was just venting. Everyone complains about their kids sometimes. You weren't complaining, I said. You were rewriting the truth. She opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. I didn't come here to argue. I came to make sure you were safe, to answer any medical questions the doctors might have. But I won't be pulled back into your narrative. Uncle John cleared his throat. So, you're really not going to help her anymore? I helped for 5 years, I said firmly. Financially, emotionally, physically. I did everything, and in return, I was ridiculed behind my back. I will not keep pouring into someone who empties me. For once, she had no response, just silence. Her eyes locked on the trophy, proof she couldn't explain away. I stood and turned to Emma. Ready to go? Emma nodded, giving our mother one last glance. Take care of yourself, Aunt Lorraine. As we left the room, I heard Uncle John whispering, his voice low and concerned. But I didn't listen. That conversation was no longer mine to manage. At the elevator, Emma asked, "Are you okay?" I smiled faintly. I think I finally am. And as the doors closed behind us, I realized I hadn't just left a hospital room. I had closed a chapter. There comes a moment, often quietly, after years of giving, when you realize that loyalty without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Many of us, especially those raised with traditional values, were taught to sacrifice for family without question. But what happens when that sacrifice is taken for granted? When love becomes a duty rather than a choice? Rachel's story is not one of rebellion, but of reclamation. After 5 years of caring for an ungrateful mother who ridiculed her behind closed doors, she made the painful but necessary decision to step away, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. It's a reminder that we do not owe endless emotional debt to those who disrespect us. For older adults who've spent decades putting others first, this story is a powerful nudge. It's never too late to put yourself back at the center of your own life. You can draw a boundary, you can change course, and you can still be kind without being consumed. Respect is not earned by suffering in silence. It is earned by having the courage to say, "I matter too."